Hi, it's Suze from Balanced Birth Hypnobirthing. I wanted to upload a quick video just explaining a little more about what my course actually involves. And although in all my marketing I do put a kind of brief overview, I thought it'd be nice to explain how I kind of run the sessions. So my course is delivered in 4 sessions. Now those 4 sessions can be delivered over 4 weeks, so one evening a week, Saturday morning a week, and each session is around 2.5 to 3 hours. I can also run these sessions, I say back to back, but with a break in the middle. So for instance, if you wanted to cover it over 2 weekends, we could do a Saturday and a Saturday. Alternatively, if you're a bit more hardcore or you're running out of time, you can do it over a weekend session, which is 2 full days. In between each session we do have a break to allow you some time to kind of go away and think about things, have a bite to eat. There's a lot of information contained in the course, and it is really important if you're doing the full course that you get to the end and cover all of it. Alternatively, I do offer the taster sessions, which are 2 hours, which cover some sort of birth basics and some hypnobirthing basics that can either refresh you or help you along your way. So the first session covers things like obviously getting to know each other, knowing your individual circumstances, which hopefully I know a little bit already, having spoken to you on the phone or through Skype or met up to discuss, you know, whether the course is appropriate for you. But we actually sort of look at setting goals, which sounds odd because your goal is to have a baby, but what do you want from that experience? Have you had a previous birth that you felt didn't go to plan? So do you want reduced use of intervention, either drugs? Do you want to try and have a home birth? So do you want to maximise your opportunity to do that? You know, do you want to be able to get into a certain position? You know, it can be anything you want, but we kind of unpick those goals and make sure they're realistic so we can address it. You know, how can we get you to those goals? How can we get you to achieve those for a successful birth for you? We then look at instinctive birthing. So instinctive birthing really comes from our primitive part of the brain. So this is where the neuroscience comes in, and we hit it off really nice and early in the course with what part of the brain are we birthing from. So we have our kind of modern brain, our thinking, our rational brain, and then we have our primitive part of our brain. So what the course allows us to do is explore how do we get back to that primitive brain to allow us to birth instinctively, which enables us to have a more natural, calmer birth. Okay. We then look at how negative stories and experiences of birth, if you've already you know, had a baby before, how they can be, and particularly the experiences of others, how they can actually be stored in our brain as our own memories, which then trigger and repeat when we're in a similar situation. So we go through all different scenarios of how that works practically in life and apply that to when we're in the birthing room. You know, what's going to fire off and make us remember that? And how do we combat that? How do we get rid of that? How do we replace it with positive experiences and an expectation of a positive experience? So again, that's the neuroscience bit. We also look at birthing hormones. So a couple of videos ago I talked about oxytocin, my favourite hormone, but we look at kind of what cocktail of hormones are produced and what their role to play is. We also consider the biology of the birthing muscles, so i.e. our uterus, what happens during labour, what happens during our surges or contractions, if you will, what's happening to our muscles, what's happening to our baby when that takes place, and how can we relax those muscles to help them work more effectively. And we look at the role of the cervix. We should know what that is, you know, and what happens to that, how does that soften, where is that in our body in relation to giving birth. We know it's down there somewhere, but what role does it play? Because it is discussed a lot during sort of antenatal classes, so what is it? We then look at the history of birthing. Again, I have done a video on the history of birthing, and again this feeds into allowing us to understand where this fear of birth has come from, because birth wasn't always feared. There haven't always been the amount of medical interventions that we have now. So we sort of go over a history of birth just to understand, you know, and put it in context. You know, where are we now? Where were we? What's happened to alter our kind of state of mind about birth? We also look at the fear, tension, pain cycle, you know, so how do we get out of that cycle? When we're scared, we tense up, we experience pain. When we're experiencing pain, we're scared, we tense up, and it's this cycle. So how do we break that? We also obviously cover some breathing, so your basic breathing technique. We really only have one breathing technique in this hypnobirthing course, which is what I love, because many hypnobirthing courses have up breathing, down breathing, out breathing, rainbow breathing. I couldn't remember all of that. One breathing technique that works for all situations. That's what you want. And we also go through some guided imagery and some visualizations as well. So the first session is really, really intense, but it needs to be, because we need to lay a good foundation for what we're going to continue to do. So second session, session 2, we look at how we can create a helpful birth environment. So simple things like dimming the lights, making sure it's warm, making sure it's not too noisy, and we can compare different situations because you might not be birthing at home, you might be birthing in a hospital, and that might be in a midwifery-led unit, or it might be on a on labour suite, as I was. But what can you do in those situations to try and make the birth environment more comfortable, which is going to help induce a more natural birth for you? We look at holistic practices for relaxing muscles. In holistic medicine, the mouth area is related a lot to the female reproductive system. So how can we, if we relax our jaw, how is that going to relax down there? How is that going to help our cervix to open and things? So that's quite interesting to look at that. It's only in this session that we actually start really talking about hypnosis. What is it? What are our experiences of hypnosis? Is it some Darren Brown type thing? Can everyone be hypnotised? Now, a word of caution, I will not hypnotise you on this course. You will not be hypnotised, you will not be doing things against your will. What this course is teaching you is the techniques of self-hypnosis for you to use during labour. Okay, so that's really important, so we look at that. We obviously cover a bit more guided imagery. I want to give you a basket of tools that you can call upon for different situations. If one technique isn't working, you change it up. You can flick to something else. You can go to your safe place. You can go to the sea. You can go to the beach. You can do some serenity breathing, which is our breathing technique. So we've got to give you an awful lot of tools to enable you to find which one that works for you, and so you can switch it up if one isn't working. Okay. We focus on abdominal breathing, so again that goes with our breathing technique, the serenity breathing, and how to appropriately do abdominal breathing. Okay. Then we look at how to perform self-hypnosis, how to relax ourselves, or how our birthing partner can help us to relax as well. So we do lots of practice in sort of session 2. And finally we look at birth preparation, body preparation, some pregnancy stretches, some nutrition advice. I'm not a nutritionist. We do have in our course, exclusive to the Jenny Mullen Hypnobirthing course, we do have some recipes from Jason Vale, who's the juice master, not to replace food but for added nutrition during pregnancy. So all of the recipes have been tested by dietitians and are safe for pregnancy, and some of them look really nice. We also look at some pelvic floor exercises and perineal massage, which I know some people are either into or they're not. That's fine, but I will tell you how to do it safely. Session 3, we do get onto a little bit more of how the mind and the body connection work, how they work together in labour, and how if we can get our mind in the right place, how our body will respond and help us during labour. We do a little bit more work on how to replace negative images or memories with a positive expectation and positive experiences, so we're not triggering ourselves to bad things during labour. We address fear and then we let it go. So we do some fear release techniques and holistic releasing techniques. Now these are hypnotherapy techniques. Again, I'm not a hypnotherapist, but I am trained in these techniques specific to birth. We then look at the idea of conscious parenting and the benefits of a calm birth for both mum, baby. How is baby coming into the world? What is the impact of mum's emotions and mum's feelings during labour on baby, and also birthing partner, dad, another mum, a doula, a friend, whoever's in the room with you, the impact that they can have on birth and on baby, and how baby's coming into the world. And we also look at methods of controlling pain. I do use the word pain because I think fear can make us experience pain. I do try and use words like intense sensation, and use more descriptive words, but actually pain is there. So what methods have we got to control the pain, to calm the pain, to dial down the pain? It's not a course where I'm going to say that certain terminology is banned, because that's just ridiculous, because in everyday speak people will use phrases such as contractions and pain and things. So we've got to be realistic about it. Session 4, so it's our final session, and you're probably really tired of my voice by now, so hopefully you won't be on the course as well. It's very practical, it's quite practical. We look at the physical changes in a woman's body during labour, what actually happens, what happens when a cervix softens, what hormone is responsible, because when you know more and understand more about the processes and stages of labour, and you can recognise it then when you're in labour, you'll think, oh yeah, I knew that feeling was going to happen. You're not scared by it, okay, because you know it's going to happen, you know it's a natural part of labour. We look at the physiology of a newborn skull, not a real newborn, and also of mum's pelvis, again not a real pelvis, just to give some visual context about how the two fit and how they work together and how they move and flex to enable baby to be birthed naturally. We look at signs of when labour is starting, so you'll hear things like the mucus plug or uterine seal, and actually sort of look at how natural methods to kickstart labour are discussed, obviously. So you've got things like sex, pineapple, walking, take a long walk, have a hot curry. So we actually do look at that, because again that's a really kind of normal discussion around birth, because lots of people will say if you're overdue, have a curry, have some sex. So we actually look at the practicalities of that, and if there's any truth behind those methods. We again study the sort of process of birth, but with a sort of a mindful view of nudging the baby down, so rather than pushing. And I can honestly say, when you give in to your instinctive birthing body mind, you don't need to push. I didn't push. She came and I let her come, and it really did feel like she was being nudged out, and she was expelling herself. And there is such a thing as this natural expulsion reflex that we discuss, and how baby has this natural kicking reflex inside the uterus to propel themselves forward. So we also look at what happens immediately after a baby is born with regards to the cord, the placenta, a baby's lungs filling with air, how that all happens again, and that, a baby doesn't necessarily cry as soon as they're born. And again, it's about creating an expectation, so you know that it's normal for a baby not to cry immediately, so that you're not frightened as soon as you've given birth, because you're just going to reverse all of that, and you're going to get some adrenaline going in, and you don't want that, you want oxytocin. We'll look at baby's natural instincts, their stepping reflex and their natural rooting reflex when they're actually hunting for the breast, they're looking for milk. And then we cover some really nice things that we can do with our birthing partners as well, to kind of round it all off and bring them back into the fold. So what is their role as the gatekeeper of the birthing environment? We look at how we can do light touch massage. I particularly also cover some nice supportive rebozo holds, active birthing positions, and all throughout the course I try and look at and make sure you're aware of the choices that are available to you. What choices can you make at each stage of your labour? And you'll discuss this with your birthing team, either your midwives or consultants or doula. You'll discuss what choices are available, and it's important to know all of the scenarios, because if something doesn't go to plan, I don't want you to be afraid. So if you need an assisted birth, if there is talk of a C-section, you can calmly, and your birth partner can calmly say, right, okay, so what are our choices? Why are we going down this route? Not to be aggressive or to question, the medical professionals, but actually it's your body, it's your experience, and hypnobirthing allows you to feel very empowered about that, because you know your options. And also, hopefully, we've reduced fear around those options as well. So if something doesn't go to plan, it's not the end of the world. You can just move on to another technique that's going to help you with that particular bit of the plan. I really try hard to kind of look at couples' individual needs. So I do have that discussion before we meet about things that you want to achieve, and also for afterwards, because I do offer the top-up session. So you have your course, and then there is a top-up session available before baby's born, just to either recap or go over anything, or if I've gone about finding some information for you on a particular subject. After you've had your baby, the experience share that we do, I'll often bring it together then with any information that perhaps you've asked me to look at. So any local groups that are going on, breastfeeding support, baby wearing support, anything like that. And throughout that kind of journey, up until as long as you want to communicate with me, I still talk with couples that had their babies last year about weaning and moving on to different nappies and things like that. I'm a mum, and I'm really interested in helping other couples in their journey into parenthood, and I love a discussion. So I hope that people do like to stay in contact with me, and that I can offer helpful support every step of the way. That's what's included in the course. There's a lot of talking from both sides. So at the moment I'm just blabbing at you. But each course that I've done, the couples have been really engaging. There's been lots of chat. The sessions have run over because we've covered what the couples have wanted to cover. As well as the course, you do get the course companion, which basically tracks the whole course that is delivered. And I don't give that to you to follow during the sessions. You take that away with you at the end of each session so that you can recap, and there's some activities to do as well. You also have access to some individual and bespoke downloads for guided relaxation, and also the breathing techniques written and recorded by Jenny Mullen herself, and they are absolutely fantastic. That's the foundation of how we teach people to relax in this course. I still listen to them now because you have to practice. So that's one thing about a hypnobirthing course that maybe people don't realise when they go into. What we're teaching you to do is to self-hypnotise, to get yourself into a deep relaxation yourself. That takes practice. The breathing takes practice because it's not our usual breathing, it's breathing for relaxation. So you need to come into the course with eyes wide open. There's a bit of homework, but it's all good fun homework, and it's stuff that will stay with you for the rest of your life. So I can't recommend Hypnobirthing enough, as you know, and I really hope that if you're interested in my course that you give me a ring or drop me an email so we can have a chat. So I'm on hello@balancedbirth.co.uk. Hit me up on my Facebook page. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm on Twitter as well, so look for My Balanced Birth. And yeah, I hope to hear from you soon if you're interested. So have a cool evening. Bye.